And welcome back to the Grand Preview, the hot lap, where we are looking ahead to the Dutch Grand Prix. But breaking news today, the Haas team retain Nico Hulkenberg and Kevin Magnussen for 2024. Yeah, this is from BBC F1 site. So the Haas team is going to keep Hulkenberg and Kevin Magnussen for a second season in going into 2024. The team principal Gunther said, "We've had an extremely solid driver pairing this season, and ultimately there was no reason to look to change that. Both Hulkenberg and Magnussen are vastly experienced drivers whose careers were given a lifeline by Haas." And Stein has gone on to say that their feedback has been invaluable in what's a difficult 2023. And as we know, Magnussen made a surprise return in 22 when he replaced Nikita Mazepin, and he was dropped following the just before the season began with that whole Ukraine invasion. But Hulkenberg, who as we know, did not have a full-time seat after being dropped by Renault, but we'd seen him in other teams, for example, Aston Martin. But he's drafted in by Haas for 2023 when the team said goodbye to Mick Schumacher. And everyone thought at the time, is this a mistake? But I think he's definitely proven himself at the very least. The article goes on, Hulkenberg's been particularly impressive and having an edge over Magnussen, who too had an edge over Mick Schumacher. And it scored the team's best finish with 7th in the third race of the season at the Australian Grand Prix. It says Haas have struggled converting sometimes strong qualifying results. Hulkenberg has been in the top 10 in 6 of the 12 races so far into points finishes because of the car's heavy tyre usage. As we said yesterday, that was the one big thing the car had an issue with. Steiner has said Kevin and Nico gelled well right from the get-go, and together they both scored points. And in particular, Nico has excelled in qualifying, getting into Q3 on 6 occasions, and having not raced in Formula 1 since 2019 full-time, that shows you just how professional he is, and he's looked after himself physically. Now, the thing is, I don't think Hulkenberg is a surprise. The big surprise for me was Kevin Magnussen. There was a question mark there. Was he going to be the Mick Schumacher of 2023 going into 2024? But it's nice. They've given him a chance. I can't help but feel that if he has the same season next year compared to Hulkenberg as this year, then maybe he might be gone. But well done to Hulkenberg. If you remember a few weeks back at the beginning of the summer break, it was all about Hulkenberg for a day going to Red Bull after that one photo. But alas, that did not happen. So massive congratulations to both drivers there, Magnussen and Hulkenberg, employed for another year. Well done to Haas doing that deal and announcing it. Big news today before we start practice on Friday. Also news, Lance Stroll. Yes, we mentioned yesterday quickly that maybe he's into tennis going forward, but he's been struck down with an infection ahead of the Dutch Grand Prix. He's been not in attendance for Zandvoort for Thursday's media day ahead of the race. It goes on to say from planetf1.com, the Canadian driver is set to miss out on a day of preparation ahead of Sunday's Dutch Grand Prix, with Aston Martin confirming their driver will not be in attendance at the circuit on Thursday. This day, as you may or may not know, is used for media obligations and track walks and initial meetings with their engineers and teams, kind of preparing for the weekend. However, the article has gone on to say that Lance Stroll is not in doubt for the Dutch Grand Prix. So they've said Lance is recovering from an infection and will therefore miss media duties today, read the statement. But any question over Stroll's ability to go to the Grand Prix, they've said he is fit and well and will complete at this weekend's Dutch Grand Prix, confirmed a spokesman for Aston Martin. It would have been nice in a way if they'd had one of their reserve driver, just to see what happens against Alonso. Be interesting. But yeah, there we go. Having said that, going into the Dutch Grand Prix, what is the weather forecast? You know, I remember back in the days, I've been watching Formula 1 since probably the mid-90s. And we used to get excited about rain. Now, the last few years, I think ever since really Belgium 2021, that no race, that really shouldn't have been a race, let's be honest. But ever since Belgium 2021, it's been one of those things where we're all now a little bit nervous about the rain and going into the race, aren't we? To the point where we think, oh, do we really want, you want intermediates but not wets for any delays or red flags? The article from Formula1.com says it's going, Formula 1 is set to get going again in the second half of the season as it's underway, with the weather forecast with Friday rain, Saturday rain and Sunday rain, unfortunately. Saturday, mostly cloudy to overcast in the morning with a moderate chance of light showers, although things will become clear in the afternoon with the large sunny spells, which is good. The important one is the race. The conditions, it says, is a mixture of clouds and sunny spells with a moderate chance of light showers in the morning, gusts and winds up to 40 kph during the race. At the moment, chance of rain 40% for the race, 40% for Saturday, and 40% for the free practice. Hopefully they do get a free practice in, but it's always exciting, isn't it, when it rains for free practice and no one has any idea in respect of their setup, which may be one where Mercedes went wrong at Belgium, if you remember. All that rain stopped them doing the car setup, and it's also, as it wouldn't be classic if my phone goes off, it wouldn't be the hot lap, but also about the Belgian Grand Prix, people struggled, didn't they, with their setups, as I mentioned, Mercedes. So the Dutch Grand Prix on the is the wonderful FIA website, written to round 14. The length of the lap is 4.259 kilometres. The lap record from 2021 is a 111.097 knots. Verstappen, significantly, it is Lewis Hamilton. Interesting here, I didn't notice they've got the start line, finish line offset, because if you remember, the start line is not always the finish line, particularly when it comes to qualifying. Sometimes it's further back, like, for example, at Bahrain. We've got these two DRS detection zones, an entry to turn 10, and then 50 metres after turn 10. And then detection for the second is entry 20 metres after turn 12, and activation is 40 metres after turn 13. Interestingly, it's got circuit changes. Now, I'm assuming that's for this year. New upgraded fencing has been installed on the right-hand side at T7 and T8, and a run-off at T12 to protect marshals. There we go. And a bump has been removed from the start-finish straight just before turn 1, and bumps on the right-hand side between turn 5 and turn 6 have also been removed. So a smoother experience. Obviously, you would expect faster laps compared to last year. Are they going to beat Lewis Hamilton's lap record? Here is it was the track. As we know, 1952 was the first year, but it looked very different. It's going to have 72 laps. So there we go. I mean, look at the crowd there. It's a very pro Verstappen crowd. But what is going to happen? I think we're all predicting Max Verstappen to potentially win his home Grand Prix for a third time in a row, which is great if you're from Holland and you bought a ticket. Last year we had a bit of a race with Lewis Hamilton and George Russell fighting potentially for the win, but I think given the way the strategy felt, and I think Max came in, it was quite close, but alas, for any non-Max fans, it ended up obviously being a Max victory. But we will see. McLaren could be good quite here. McLaren are obviously a team to watch. Be interesting to see how the two Haas boys go with their new contracts. It'll be interesting to see if Mercedes, who had an upgrade at Spa, are able to make their car work. If you remember, after Spa there were concerns about the bouncing, but they did believe that was the setup. How is Albon going to do at Williams? And the other big thing, I think, is going to be, can Aston Martin regain their mojo? Ferrari seem to be the second fastest team at Spa. Is that still going to be the case? And also, how is Perez going to do? He really needs to finish second, doesn't he? Imagine if he beat Max in his hometown. Well, his home country. That'd be awkward. But all these questions, hopefully, are going to start to be answered in terms of pace, etc., on Friday, when I speak to you on Friday after free practice 1 and 2. You're going to have, hopefully, if it doesn't rain, a slightly better picture of where everyone lies. Although, as we know with the free practice, means a bit, but not much. I think 50-60% you can probably take into how accurate free practice is. But it gives us an idea. And when you've got a turn called Tarzan, the first turn, how amazing is that? Brilliant. But there we go. As my phone clicks off again, this has been the hot lap. This has been all the news going into our F1 Grand Prix preview, and I'll speak to you soon.